Hey everybody, it is Suzanne back with another energy update. These are very short little snippets of client interactions that I have as an energy practitioner, and I like to share some of their details. They give me permission to do so anonymously, and I think it's really cool because we can all learn from one another. And I wanted to share this particular one I just did this morning because it was interesting work. Sometimes, as a quantum worker, I do work with what we call coding, and I use geometry, sacred geometry, and circuitry, and I use things like these kinds of cards that pull out certain coding, and I will pick these cards on kind of like a basis of not necessarily knowing what they stand for. I will ask for them and pull them through blindly, and then the circuitry is what I put into their so-called blueprint or their instruction set. And it's always super cool because it aligns exactly with what that client needs. And this particular gentleman I've worked with for very many years, and he is doing great work. And the stuff that came through today in terms of his coding were the communications card. And when that card, again, I don't know what the information is when I'm first coding, and then I'll flip it over when I do the circuitry, and then I will find out what it is. And then it always makes sense with what I just pulled through in their actual physical form. And when I did the communications card, coding his and I do this work remote, so I feel his body because I'm an empath, and so he expanded overall when I was doing the communications card. So that one was really cool because all of his fields were growing and expanding during that time. The second card, when I was downloading the freedom code, this one was super neat because his entire upper body and this area expanded and got super warm. This is where we carry everybody else's crap. And again, I don't know what the card is when I'm initially doing it. So I knew that this had something to do with interactions with others and carrying their garbage and carrying everything here. And then it came through here and really released, and then it dropped all the way down into his sacral, into his belly. And this is my throat, my truth, my holding my truth, and my belly is my relationships and my emotions with others. And so this was a huge release pattern when I did this one. And then I flip it over, and sure enough, the coding is about freedom. And so that was really cool because during our initial session, we had talked about how it's important for him to move forward from hanging on to everyone's garbage and everybody's stuff. So that one was really wicked cool. And then the third one was integration. Again, not knowing what it was yet. When I was putting this one in, I feel what they feel as a client. And immediately I was all choked up and my upper body was super tight and my heart was tight, my tummy was tight, everything was tight, and it was really struggling. So I was asking for guidance on what is it that's happening here. And they told me this card coding needed to go through all of his actual fields, all of his physical field, emotional field, mental field, spiritual field, and it needed to pull everything through and actually synergize it. And they wanted me to specifically look at the eyeball area. And he, during the session, when I got feedback, said there was so much going on up here. And this was during the time period because they were looking at how his actual eyeballs as a human perceives his reality and brings things into his field. And then they were saying he has a tendency to compartmentalize and take different information and not synergize it with what his eyes are actually seeing from a divine way. So what this means is, for example, I see something in my reality and it looks like something from the outside. What I want to do with this particular card then is to make sure that my emotions are in line with what I'm seeing. My mental field from a divine aspect is in alignment with what I'm seeing, and my spirituality is in alignment. Oftentimes we'll see something and then that mental field will trigger old belief systems and narratives and they won't align, and I'll compartmentalize and I'll change the perspective of what I'm seeing, if you're following this. And or I see something and I will not emotionally hold a truth, and so I will go through the action with a non-attachment to the true emotion. And so this card was super interesting because it was actually the card of integration. So they wanted me to integrate all of his fields so that this compartmentalization was not available any longer. And I thought that one was super cool because he does have that ability to compartmentalize, and we talk about this often in his sessions. And so It couldn't have been the more perfect card. And then the last card that I had pulled, again blindly, just when I was working, had this feeling of breath in, breath out. It was amazing. And my own body could feel how whatever this card was doing was pulling all these last cards in and pulling all these last cards out. And it just kept going through this breathing process, like the breath of life itself. So that one was wickedly cool. And then I flip it over and find out that this is actually the blueprint card. And that is amazing to me. Like I said, you can't make this stuff up because I literally was recoding his blueprint. So it could not have aligned better with those four cards in terms of communication, and then freedom, and then integration, and then blueprints. So we will actually expand on this during our podcast called Energy Unleashed. When I bring my partner Kim Hess in, this is going to be a really doozer because there was a lot going on here, and I would really like to expand further on what coding is and how that works and how that happens in our blueprint, because we all have the ability to really, really reprogram ourselves. And this is all about empowerment. This is all about sovereignty and freedom. Take what resonates from this one today too. If it doesn't resonate, that's fine. If it does, awesome. And I look forward to doing more on the podcast. Until then, Cosmic Hugs.